Hello, baseball fans. This is Nathan, also known on the internet as Inferno Gamer 007, and I would like to welcome you to my first ever content creation series of MLB The Show. MLB The Show is a game I've been very passionate about over the last few years, and have played franchise mode every year since 2014. I've just picked up a capture card, so special thank you to my buddy who sold this capture card to me. And I know it's late in the MLB The Show development cycle, but I thought it would be fun to do a challenge in a franchise mode of sorts. This is episode 0. I will be revealing what team I use, and I'll kind of be talking about what the whole goal of the series is going to be. This is going to be relatively unedited for the most part. So we got a whole bunch of solid teams in Major League Baseball. We could go for a full-blown rebuild with the Baltimore Orioles. We could take a team right on the cusp of trying to compete and take them to the promised land. Since it's a little late in the MLB The Show season, here is the team we will be using for this first ever franchise mode series of mine, and that is the Anaheim Angels, or the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I'll show you a look at the rosters I'm using for this series. I'm using some of the real-life off-season moves in the 21-22 lockout season, and since that means with the Angels, we have Noah Syndergaard, who will get some starts for us in year number 1. He's only on a 1-year contract for about $10 million on this roster, but he'll be underway. But if we're doing the Angels, we got to talk about pitching. Honestly, in this roster, I see us having pieces that I think could be very good pieces down the road, but the whole challenge of this series that I'm going to shoot for is we got 3 seasons with Shohei Ohtani before he hits the open market. So 3 seasons with arguably the best player in Major League Baseball, given he doesn't simulate the best in MLB The Show. But we got 3 seasons with Shohei until he hits free agency after the 2023 season, which is what it's going to be in this because it's MLB The Show, and yeah, it's not going into 2022 like it is in real life. So we have Shohei for 3 more seasons. My goal is to bring a ring to the Anaheim Angels within the first 3 seasons. We got a lot of veteran players on this Angels team. Mike Trout, obviously the best player in baseball, arguably. He's only been to the postseason once in his career, and that was during the 2014 season when the Angels lost out to the Kansas City Royals, who went on to the World Series. And they've dished out some big money in recent off seasons, getting Anthony Rendon from Washington after his great 2019 season, over 1,000 OPS in that season for Anthony. And I just think this is a team that if we address the starting pitching, get some help in the bullpen, I think our first order of business is going to be put Dylan Bundy back in the starting rotation because MLB The Show has him as a reliever for some reason, and he's a starting pitcher. So we're going to need a lot of help in this bullpen, and it's an older bullpen. Steve Cishek is the top not closing pitcher. We do have Raisel Iglesias, who I gave his real-life contract to, about $15 million a season. Catchers, Max Stassi will be a rock back there for us in this series. Given we do have backed up by Kurt Suzuki, we can always pick up a solid backup catcher in MLB The Show. I do like the talent we have at the first base position with Jared Walsh, who can just absolutely mash against right-handed pitching. I think Jared's going to be a very, very good bat for us in this series, and will be a part of this World Series core we're trying to bring. We also got Taylor Ward, and these are the ratings for Taylor Ward, and I kind of like having Taylor Ward as a utility guy. As you can see, he's got all sorts of different positions. You can play the outfield, first base, third base, catcher. You always need one of those guys that can just be a Swiss Army knife and play wherever. Given he hasn't played that much, only 7 MLB home runs and a .214 career average. But I really like Taylor Ward. And then Matt Thies, who has some upside. Will it be with us? Most likely not. I see him more as of a trade piece, someone we can move to get some pitching in this series. Over to second base, we got David Fletcher. Now, in MLB The Show, he does not have the best discipline rating, but I really like that vision. I see David Fletcher with his defensive ratings as like a defense-first contact bat. He'll either bat leadoff or he'll bat ninth. Those are the two spots I see him in the batting order for our version of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Great player in real life, but that's the role I see him in MLB The Show. And we do got some other guys like Luis Rengifo, solid on base guy. Again, another infielder off the bench. And then Anthony Rendon. He's Anthony Rendon. We're expecting big things from him in this series to be that rock at third base for our Anaheim Angels. Shortstop, we got Jose Iglesias for this season. I know it's 2022, and Iglesias finished the season in real life on the Boston Red Sox. But for the purpose of this series, this will be like an alternate, kind of like a weird alternate version of 2021, if that makes sense, where free agents that have signed in the offseason up to this point prior to the Major League Baseball lockout in real life will be on the teams that they signed with. And those guys that did not sign contracts yet in the offseason, I just did my best guess to put them on teams I think they're going to end up on. I will show off those guys later in the episode. But we'll have Jose Iglesias as our starting shortstop to start off the franchise. We do have some younger talent at the position in Kyron Paris, Errol Rivera, Jeremiah Jackson. But if we have a 3-year time frame in this franchise to win a World Series, I don't know if we have time to wait for guys like Jeremiah Jackson, Kyron Paris, or any of these guys to really develop. They're only 18, 19 years old, and we want to win a World Series. So it could very well, we could include one of these guys in trades to bring in someone to help us win now. Left field, we got Justin Upton. Here's the thing about J-Up, that contract. 33 years old, and we owe him a lot of money. And if we're the Angels, I assume we're going to want to bring in a starting pitcher or re-sign Noah Syndergaard at the end of his 1-year contract on a 1-year prove-it deal a la Marcus Semien, right? So Justin Upton is very much in our interests to move if we can find a team willing to take him. So Justin Upton could find a trade for him. Center field. Lots of talent in center field for the Angels. Obviously Mike Trout, but we got top prospect Brandon Marsh. Made his debut in real life in the 2021 season for the Angels after Mike Trout was out with injury. So we'll definitely expect to see Brandon Marsh potentially as a fourth outfielder in this series, potentially a trade chip if we see a move that makes sense for us, as well as Joe Adell, who's got a little bit of taste in the MLB in 2020. I think he played a little bit in 2021 for the Angels, and then Jordan Adams, 21-year-old center fielder. I like his skill set. He's got those plate skills, which means he'll likely develop, and he's got decent speed, decent fielding. Don't know if he's a center fielder long term with the fielding ratings down in the 60s. Maybe move him to a corner outfield spot. And then right field, we have Adam Eaton, Dexter Fowler, Juan Lagares. Just ignore Grayson Janista being on the MLB roster. I did some moving around of players. So Grayson Janista ended up with the Angels. But that's what I think of what we can do here on the Anaheim Angels. So we will enter this. GM contracts for this series will be off in case I do decide to extend it for the long term. We will have more freedom that way. No fantasy draft, no legend free agents. CPU roster control is off. CPU trading. The CPU teams will be able to make trades. Ignore budgets will be off. Forced trades will be off. We will have universal designated hitter in this series, which I think is something that's very likely to happen in Major League Baseball in the 2022 season after they do the whole collective bargaining agreement, and we will not have the runner on second base in extra innings. These are the settings we're using for the franchise mode. And here's what I like to do. Manager tasks to manual. So it's our job to hire, fire staff, 40-man roster moves, all that good stuff. The only one I leave on is the development tasks. Scouting will be taken care of by the CPU. Now we will start this save in spring training. Just give it a second. We are playing on PlayStation 4. If anybody is curious. But let's do those moves that we talked about. Dylan Bundy will be moved into the starting rotation, and he slots in as our number 3 guy in our starting rotation. Going into the regular season. With Griffin Canning as the 4th, and we got a whole bunch of guys here. Young, good starting pitching, who I think could be great pieces to develop for year 2, year 3 of the franchise. The main piece being Reed Detmers, who was the number 1 pick by the Angels out of the University of Louisville. And he has played in Major League Baseball already. In the 2021 season in real life, I'm not sure he'll get there in year 1 of this save for the Angels. But one guy I do like is we got relief pitcher Gerardo Reyes, who played for the Padres in 2019. He'll get some opportunities with us. But I won't beat a dead horse here. Let's go around the league and I'll show other rosters and I'll point out if I added any major players to any roster. Oakland was given Roberto Osuna, last appeared with the Astros in 2020. Did not appear at all in 2021 in real life, but for this save file, he'll be put on the Oakland Athletics. And I guess I made the roster wrong because Marcus Stroman is supposed to be on the Cubs. Whatever, we'll go with it. I made this roster earlier, and I did some of my best predictions for guys that hadn't signed yet. And it'll make the storyline a little bit more interesting for this series if we got the Seattle Mariners with 2 great starting pitchers in Robbie Ray and Marcus Stroman to go along with Marco Gonzalez, Logan Gilbert, James Paxton, who's on Boston in real life, but I didn't change that on this roster for some reason. So like I said, it's an alternate universe. Some things are slightly different. Texas Rangers, they've added Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, as well as John Gray will be their number 1 starter after they signed him from the Colorado Rockies For some reason in MLB The Show, he's got like 1 year of service time for some reason, and they haven't fixed that throughout the year. But he's got his real life contract with Texas at $14 million a season. Freddie Freeman, kept him on Atlanta. I don't see him leaving them in the offseason. They did add Kirby Yates, who was injured all season, for the Blue Jays. He is only on that 1 year contract, though, so he will be a free agent. Like I said, alternate universe. Some things will be slightly different. And this is the rest of that. Nicholas Castellanos I put on the Miami Marlins, along as they did get Jacob Stallings from the Pittsburgh Pirates. So those are their top two players. Brad Hand I also decided to put on Miami, as he had kind of a bad end to his season with the Blue Jays and the Mets. Feel like the Marlins are a kind of team that would take a 1 year flyer on him in real life, so he'll end up on the Marlins in this save. And the Marlins are also the team he cracked into the major leagues with, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he was a starter for the Marlins way back when. So he'll return to the Marlins in this save, as well as Avisail Garcia being on Miami. Now, the New York Mets did a lot of moves. They do have Max Scherzer on that 3-year deal he signed in real life. Starling Marte on a 4-year contract, just like he has in real life with the New York Mets they signed before the lockout. And they also added Eduardo Escobar and Mark Canha. So they have a lot of pieces there on the New York Mets that they added in the offseason. Oh, pardon me. Oh, pardon me. Lots of talking, but like I said, this is a more unedited, talky kind of video. Future videos in this series will be gameplay kind of edited down into a highlight package for, I want to say, 2 to 3 games per episode. And we'll probably do we'll do 2 to 3 games in this series per in-game month. I'm just thinking if there's Corey Knebel signed with the Phillies in real life, so he will be with them for 1 season, because he signed for them for 1 season in real life, so that's where he will end up. Did Washington do anything? Not off the top of my head, but they do have Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz from that blockbuster trade at the trade deadline. The Chicago Cubs have Wade Miley, was claimed off waivers by them from the Cincinnati Reds. Reds didn't want to pay him that $10 million. It's only $7.5 million in the game, but keep in mind Wade Miley is on the Chicago Cubs, and Clint Frazier has also been picked up by the Chicago Cubs in this franchise mode, just like he was in real life after the Yankees non-tendered him. After he was part of mock trades by Yankees fans for years and years and years, he'll be crafting his trade on the north side of Chicago. One of my favorite teams in real life, so we'll see how this team develops in this series. Cincinnati Reds, I gave Edwin Encarnacion. Edwin, most known for his years in Toronto, but actually came up and broke into Major League Baseball with the Cincinnati Reds, so I thought it would be fitting for him to kind of be like, take over their designated hitter role in Cincinnati, now that I have the universal DH in this series. And they will have some trade targets from Cincinnati, as Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo could be moved by the Reds in this series. Did I do anything to Milwaukee? I do not believe so. I think Milwaukee's relatively unchanged. Couple interesting things for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Andrew McCutchen's back in Pittsburgh on a 1-year contract. I know he hasn't signed yet in real life. I just thought it'd be fun to put him on Pittsburgh again. As well as Rick Porcello is on the roster, because if I look at their starting pitching, they're all very young and very low rated. So giving them Porcello makes it so they'll have at least one veteran in the starting rotation, and they're not having all all of their super young guys in the rotation right away. Porcello's there just to eat a roster spot, so Pittsburgh will essentially have one guy in the minor leagues to develop and not ruin their development, as well as they got Roberto Perez to be their catcher after he left Cleveland in real life. I believe St. Louis is relatively unchanged. They did pick up Steven Matz, who I only put on a 1-year contract, so he'll be a free agent. And I believe that's about it for the St. Louis Cardinals. Mark Melancon, who had a good year in real life with the San Diego Padres, ends up on the Arizona Diamondbacks, just like he did in real life. So keep in mind, Melancon is no longer a San Diego Padre. Corey Dickerson has not signed a contract in real life. Played for the Blue Jays last season. He will be on the Diamondbacks in this series. At least to start off. Like I said, trades will be changed. Colorado no longer has Trevor Story. I will show you the landing spot I picked for Trevor Story, which I think is kind of hurts me to say this as a Toronto Blue Jays fan in real life, but I think you guys will see what I'm going with when I show you the landing spot for Trevor Story. Los Angeles Dodgers, Trevor Bauer. I know it's a controversial topic of Trevor Bauer's legal situation this season in real life. Some people don't want him back in baseball at all, but for the purposes of this series, Trevor Bauer, his ratings will remain unchanged from the roster I downloaded, so Trevor Bauer will be in this series, regardless of your opinion. And Clayton Kershaw, even though he's a free agent in real life, he's still on the Dodgers in this save, but he will be a free agent at the end of the season. I believe Andrew Heaney ended up with the Dodgers after a disastrous season with the Angels and the Yankees. He's back to the Dodgers, where he was a Dodger for a day. I don't remember if he was a Dodgers or a Marlins prospect, but he was involved in trades for D. Gordon and Howie Kendrick back in the day. He will be on the Dodgers, as well as Chris Taylor's back. Daniel Hudson signed a 1-year contract with the Dodgers. In real life, he will be in their bullpen in this series. San Diego. Any changes to the Padres that I can remember? Cole Hamels is on a 4-year contract for some reason. But like I said, fuck it. I already made the roster. I'm already talking about all the teams. It's going to stay that way. So that's Cole Hamels is a member of the San Diego Padres. Going through their ratings, I believe that should be everything. San Francisco, Buster Posey. He did retire in real life, but because alternate universe, Buster Posey will be the catcher for San Francisco. Chris Bryant will be on a 1-year deal with the Giants. Free agent at the end of the year. They kept Anthony DeSclafani. They lost Kevin Gausman to Toronto. Evan Longoria, Jake McGee, Mike Yastrzemski, Brandon Belt. They did pick up Alex Cobb, who does play for us in real life, who did play for the Angels in real life in 2021, but he did sign a contract with San Francisco in real life, so he will be with the Giants. Even though the money's wrong, it's close enough. He's on the right team, right? That's all that matters. The Baltimore Orioles picked up Rougned Odor, who played for the Yankees in real life in 2021. He did end up with Baltimore. So he will be on the Orioles to start off this franchise. And I believe the roster, other than that, is relatively unchanged from the 2021 Orioles. The Boston Red Sox, Kyle from Waltham, if you're Jared Carrabis, he will stay on the Red Sox on a one-year contract with $10 million. Some of these guys in free agency, I just put them on the last team that had them in real life, and Schwarber is one of those guys that will be on the Boston Red Sox. I thought I moved Eduardo Rodriguez to Detroit, but I guess he's on Boston for one more year. Oh well. I apologize for not making every single move 100% correct, but this is what we will be living with. The New York Yankees. And if you're looking closely, Trevor Story is on the Yankees on a one-year, $20 million per season contract. He will be a free agent at the end of the season, shall the Yankees decide not to extend him. So the Yankees now have a lot of guys in the middle infield, guys like LeMahieu, Gio Urshela, Gleyber Torres is still on the Yankees. I have another save I've been playing with this same roster where Gleyber Torres ended up on my Oakland Athletics save. But this is also Yusei Kikuchi ended up on New York, free agent in real life. He's on the Yankees now as their number 5 starter. And they got Gallo, Judge, Giancarlo, Garrett Cole. Tampa Bay, Tyler Glasnow, Nelson Cruz, Corey Kluber was added in the offseason. This is kind of showing off the league. Andrew Kittredge. They do have some good prospects in guys like Francisco Mejia and Brendan McKay, who, if we were doing like a more long-term save, a guy like Brendan McKay might be somebody that we like to negotiate for and trade offers with Tampa Bay. And Francisco Mejia has been a beast in that Oakland A's save I was talking about earlier. Jordan Luplow. I know Joey Wendell's moved on in real life, but he's on the Rays in the save. I didn't do all the offseason moves, and I thought I did some, but I guess the roster didn't save properly, so I apologize. Toronto Blue Jays. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Kevin Gossman, Teoscar Hernandez, Bo Bichette, Jose Barrios. I think it's pretty much the real-life Blue Jays. They added Yimi Garcia, Adam Simber. I did give them Andrew Chafin, who's still a free agent in real life as of the time of recording, and Jose De Leon, who is a free agent in real life as of the time of recording. But they got a lot of good prospects in this save file. Chicago White Sox, Liam Hendricks. I decided to let them keep Carlos Rodon and Craig Kimbrell, even though those are both guys rumored in real life that they could be losing at the end of the season. They will have both of those guys in this save file. Michael Kopech was moved into the starting pitcher position instead of a relief pitcher that he normally is on these MLB The Show rosters, and he just ends up as their long reliever for some reason. So I just made him a starting pitcher right off the bat, so he'll be a starting pitcher for the Chicago White Sox for this series. Cleveland still have Jose Ramirez. I didn't feel like there was, as much as I would have liked to put him on the Blue Jays for this save file, he will be on Cleveland, who will still be the Cleveland Indians for this series. And they remain relatively unchanged. Detroit. I decided to have a little bit of fun with Detroit. They did have Javier Baez, who's on a 3-year contract in this save, as well as the big piece that they've been linked to, who I still think this is going to happen, is that they'll get Carlos Correa in real life in the offseason. He's got a massive contract, and he's the shortstop for Detroit, spending big money on Baez, and now they're going to spend big money on Carlos Correa. It's my MLB The Show save file. If you don't agree with it, you don't have to. But Carlos Correa is on the Detroit Tigers. And then this is the rest of their roster and ratings, I suppose. The Kansas City Royals. I don't believe I did a whole lot to their roster. They do have Lucius Fox, who have... I'm going to mention that save file I've been doing with the Oakland Athletics in my spare time, but he turned into a very good player in that save. So he might be someone we look at targeting. They do have Bobby Witt Jr., who I will go off camera and edit his ratings to make him a better hitter, because Bobby Witt Jr. is a good hitter in real life, but these ratings will not make him a good hitter in the save file. So I will go in and adjust those ratings as I see accordingly to make him a better hitter in this series for the Kansas City Royals. Minnesota. Andrelton Simmons is back. He's a free agent in real life, but he will be with Minnesota for the start of this series at least. I got guys like Trevor Larnach, former teammate of Adley Rutschman with Oregon State, that won at that College World Series. This is essentially the ratings for Minnesota. Houston brought back Justin Verlander. I don't believe I did much else. Pedro Baez, I believe he was already there. Luis Garcia, Chas McCormick. I believe Houston's fairly untouched. I did give them guys like Hector Neris, who they did get in real life. But I believe that's basically it for Houston. And then we're back to the Angels, who, if we look at our roster, we have a full 40-man roster. But we will start this out by doing some things that I believe we should do to make ourselves a more competitive team in 2022. The first of those moves is to put Jose Quintana as a starting pitcher and a chance to compete for a role there. First baseman Max Burt, he will be designated for assignment, as well as Brett Eibner. We'll remove a few guys from the 40-man roster. I think we'll remove about 5 guys there from the 40-man roster. And we will bring in some guys and give them an opportunity to compete for some positions in year one with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So free agents still in this save. Let's go around and see if there's anybody we would like to bring in for an opportunity to compete for a position. I think the first guy we'll give an opportunity to will be Tyler Chatwood. Not a great season with the Blue Jays in 2021, but we can give him a 1-year flyer. And I'm not too concerned about money on a 1 year. Oh, we have to release guys. Oh. I guess let's do that. You can be released. We'll release him, guys. Did not mean. Sorry about that, guys. But let's go back to bringing some guys in with opportunities to compete for positions here with our Anaheim Angels. Oh, sorry about the cough. Oof. Like I said, this is unedited. A lot of talking, not a lot of time. First guy, we will give an opportunity to compete for a job with the Angels in 2000 and in our 2021 version will be Nomar Mazara. We will offer him a year and $4 million if he makes the roster to play right field for us. So boom, Nomar Mazara will have a chance to compete for the Angels. Other names I am interested in bringing in: Luis Avilas Jr., not a bad prospect. Third base. No one's catching my eye as of right now. Scooter Gennett, former Red San Francisco Giant. I do like the upside on the bat for Jed Jerko. I don't know if we'll find a spot for him on the big league club, but I think we should still bring him in, as we don't have terrific depth at the first base position should anything happen to Jared Walsh. So I'll tell you can be every day, I guess. Would you take 1 year, $5 million? No. So it looks like Jed Jerko is going to be too expensive for us to bring in. But let's circle back to Tyler Chatwood. One year, $2.5 million. I think he'll make the roster and be part of our bullpen as a guy who can give multiple innings out there. What do you say to that, Tyler? All right, what if we did 2.7? Boom, we got Tyler. We got Tyler Chatwood. He'll be added to the 40-man roster with a chance to compete for a roster spot in spring training. And I think we should bring in one other guy to compete for that number 5 starter role, along with, because our rotation is currently Syndergaard, Ohtani, Bundy, Canning, Quintana. We got Quintana in the number 5 spot in the rotation. If we were to start today, which we're not, I'm going to post this video and wait for some feedback. Tommy Wilson could be a good I kind of feel cheap if I'm bringing in prospects, though, because I can just flip those guys. Ariel Jurado. I actually saw him pitch in real life in 2019 for Texas at in Chicago. Sandy Gaston. Why not? Why not? And let's bring in one more reliever. You can never have enough relievers. Edebry Ramos, 28. No free agent closers, eh? Will Brandon Workman want Alex Claudio. I don't know if he played for the Angels in real life, but Jackson Reese. We do have guys like Jose Quijada, who could be pieces down the road. Let's bring in a guy. Let's see if we can bring in a guy like Sal Romano. 1 year, $750,000. Okay, we'll make it 2 at $900, but it's a club option. Boom. We just will purchase the contract of Tyler Chatwood. Bring him up to the roster for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And I think we'll also purchase... Is there anybody else that we signed that we need to purchase the contract of? It does not appear that way. Also, Jose Rojas, alumni of the Western Canadian Baseball League. Brownie points if you know what that is. Jose Iglesias, anybody else that we signed? Nomar. We do have Nomar Mazara. Could get him some playing time against right-handed pitching. Pray the bat develops a little bit. And see if we got anybody else that can play. Can anybody else play against lefties? Kind of, sort of, not really. And we'll update our trade block. So we're definitely interested in pitching off the bat here. And who are we willing to offer in trade packages? We could offer someone like a Patrick Sandoval. None of his options have been used at this point in time. Could offer someone like a Jose Suarez. I think I will list... Because I think Sandoval and Detmers are, I think, our 2 highest potential guys here. So those guys will stay in the organization. I think those are our 2 guys that are untouchable. I think we could be fairly competitive with our three-headed monster here with Bundy, Syndergaard, Ohtani. Cishek, Myers, Chatwood, Slagers, AJ Ramos, Gerardo Reyes. Next episode we'll do 3 spring training games next episode. I'll kind of cut them up and then do it that way. But those 2 guys are on the trading block. And these are our lineups for spring training, in case you're curious. Let's get Nomar Mazara in there, get him some at-bats, see what he can do, because I've always felt like he's a guy in real life who could do some great things. I seriously think he can. So we will have Nomar. If Scott Schebler can play right field, we could even put Taylor Ward out there in right field against lefties in the regular season. But that's essentially all that I want. We're reaching about the 45-minute recording mark. I'm going to upload this raw, unedited, so you can see my genuine feelings about this Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim franchise mode. The goal here is to win a ring in 3 seasons or less. Mike Trout's waited long enough. Let's be aggressive to get him a ring. Our payroll is way the fuck up there. And it'll only go up with some of these contracts we have due, but we got contracts like Dexter Fowler on the books. Quintana's making $8 million for some reason. But once we get those guys off the books after this season, we should have some money to play with in the off season. One more housekeeping thing, if I can find it. But this is what's been put out by the team. I will find the sponsorship aspect of it in between recordings, but I apologize for this being a very rambly type of episode. It's my first ever forte into content creation, and if you're still listening at this point in the episode, I very much appreciate it. Next episode will be all 3 spring training games for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. We will get or actually let me know in the comment section if you'd rather see it as an episode edited 2 to 3 games in spring training, chopped up into like a highlight package, or if you would rather see a live stream over on my Twitch. It's just, if you're not following, it's twitch.tv/InfernoGamer007. Once again, thank you so much for listening. My name is Nathan, also known as InfernoGamer007. I sincerely appreciate you taking some time out of your day to watch my content, and I'm looking forward to presenting this franchise mode with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and getting Mike Trout.